This is Strange Darkness Radio with your host, Bobby Washington.
Caller, tell us your story.
It's interesting on how many people you see and meet in different paranormal groups, that are out there. And what we try to do with this podcast is just basically kind of connect stories. So as you hear stories and or have those experiences, a lot of people wonder, like, am I going crazy? Like, did I see what I saw? And just all those different things. But when you hear a story that's similar to yours, it kind of brings everything together to say, maybe there is something to what I saw or heard, or what my experience it was, even as brief as some may be. So,
No, completely agree. Because, a lot of the times, people want to discount what you say, that it's always, it must have been this or that. Or even like just personally, you're like, oh, maybe I imagined that, or how is that possible? So I think it does help to listen to other people and their stories. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So go ahead. Tell me, a little bit about, or, the full stories, not a little, but we'll talk about yourself in general in a little bit, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I've had 3 separate experiences with, what I think was the paranormal. The first one, so this happened in a house that I grew up in Sacramento. It was a small house. At the time, the house wasn't very old. It was, I think it was built in 1983. And we moved to that house in 1989. And I think it was about 12 years old. So I hadn't really experienced anything living there at first, but then I'd say after maybe about a year or two, it's about 13 or 14 years old. And one day I was alone in my bedroom, and, I had one of those, those large bean bags on the floor, just one of the bags that people sit on, or, I just used it to throw my stuff on, usually clothes. So it was just like a dark blue bean bag, and it was sitting in the corner of my room. And I was standing in my room, and, all of a sudden the bean bag moved about a foot away from the corner and towards me. And so I completely freaked out, and I was terrified, and I ran out to the living room, and then I told my dad, there's something in my room. My beanbag just like moved right in front of me.
Yeah.
And so he ran to my room, and then, he looked in the closet and under the bed, and, I had a tiny room, so there really wasn't a whole lot to check. And of course there's nothing there. And so he asked me, did you have something sitting on the beanbag? And I said, I only had a pair of jeans. And there's no way a pair of jeans is going to cause the beanbag to move that much.
Exactly.
And so he's like, well, I don't see any other reason why your beanbag would have moved. So either you imagined it, or your jeans caused the beanbag to move. And I'm like, I did not imagine it. It happened right in front of me. And, he was really skeptical.
Yeah.
Which, bothered me because, I wanted answers or reassurance, and I wasn't getting it from him. So that didn't really sit well with me.
Yeah. And
so I think it was like, it's hard to remember the exact time frame, but I'm thinking it probably wasn't too long is when, like, the second part of that story happened is Um, so shortly after that, I think, I started hearing things in my room at night. So when I would get into my bed to go to sleep, every single night, I began to hear what sounded like feet against my carpet, just the sound of feet rubbing against my carpet. And it was just like all night long. And I had never heard it before. So I was thinking, well, maybe it's just my imagination. And so I began to pay attention, like at other times of the day, during the daytime or in the morning, I'd be super quiet to see if I could hear that exact same noise.
Yeah.
It was only at nighttime, you know, when I was alone in bed. And so it just, I became terrified to go to bed. I would sleep with um, pillows and blankets covering my ears so I couldn't hear anything, because otherwise I couldn't sleep, because that's all I would hear is the sound of feet against carpet. And so, I'd be all sweaty like when I woke up because I had all these things pressed against me. And then so I just became like super anxious, like I couldn't sleep at night. And so, I began begging my older sister to sleep in my bed with me, or I would ask to sleep in my mom's bed with her, because when someone else was in the room, I wouldn't hear the sound. And it was just when I was by myself at nighttime.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
that's interesting.
yeah, and so I was kind of embarrassed because, I was 13 or 14, and I had never been afraid of the dark or scared to go to sleep by myself. And all of a sudden, it's like I'm 5 years old, where I'm scared of the dark and I'm scared of bedtime. Like I hated nighttime. I could not stand when it was like, starting to get dark, because I knew I'd have to go to bed and I'd have to listen to that sound all night. And so that went on for like a few months. And then finally one night, like I think I just kind of had a mental breakdown.
Hmm.
And I remember I started crying, and then I started talking out loud, whatever you are, please leave me alone. I just want to go to sleep. Like, please go away. Like, don't ever bother me again. Like, you are not wanted here. And so I swear, right after that, like, I never heard the sound of feet against carpet ever
Wow.
again. Like, yeah. And so I feel like it had to have been something. Like, why did I hear it all those months? And as soon as I like tell it out loud, to leave me alone, it was like it was instant. It was so bizarre. And I never had problems hearing that sound ever again.
Yeah, it's like you took control of the situation to, tell this entity that no, this
Hmm.
is my space. You're not allowed to be
Hmm.
here. And it actually,
Hmm.
which we do have a person that comes on, quite frequently. Her name is Silver Rain, and she talks about owning your space and just letting
Hmm.
them know that they have no authority that you do. And so that's what it sounds like that happened.
Yeah, and I wish I had known that earlier, because it was like I felt like I was going crazy, like at that age, and not being able to sleep, and just like trying to beg my family to, like, please sleep in my bed with me. I don't want to be alone. And so it was interesting. And I'm glad to be aware of that now. So I
Yeah.
would think if that situation ever happened, like I feel like I would be able to take control of that again.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Was it the footsteps? Was it like shuffling, or was it just the patter of the feet hitting the carpet? Or was
just
the
pattern, like if you rubbed your feet like back and forth against your carpet,
Mhm.
just that sound.
Oh wow.
Like I'm doing it right now and I can just hear it. It was just, yeah, it just sounded like somebody just walking around carpet all night long.
Yeah. That's interesting. Have you
Yeah.
had any other paranormal incidents in that particular home, or were you aware, of
Uh,
anything at that time or after?
After that, not in that house, I didn't. I had told my mother, I said, and I told her the story how I would, both the stories of that happening. And she's like, I feel like I've heard noises in the house before. And then even shortly after my father passed away, she thought like she would hear like a man sighing like out loud.
Mm,
So but she's told me that, oh yeah, I have heard things at night, but she doesn't like to talk about it too much.
yeah.
It terrifies her, so she really doesn't want to acknowledge it. But she has told me that there have been noises for her as
Okay,
well.
so
But
she's still, you guys still own that home, or your mom's
yeah,
still there? Oh
uh-huh,
wow.
she's still in that house. And I go visit her, and I haven't heard, nothing else has ever happened to me since I've been there.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I mean, basically, in that scenario, you were able to take charge and actually, tell the whatever, it was, whether it was a ghost, whether it was just something that or someone, because was that house new when you guys moved there, or was it already, built?
Yeah, I'd say yeah, because it was about 6 years. It was only like 6 years old when we had moved there.
Hmm.
So yeah, sometimes I wonder like, oh, did the previous owners move because they had problems with the house,
Yeah.
or it was just very interesting. Like I always wondered if it was just me, or did other people also experience things going on there.
Well, for some reason, it wanted to make contact with you because it's also interesting that when if someone stayed in your room with you, they weren't able to hear it or it didn't make that sound. It was only like
Yeah.
for you to hear.
So
So that
yeah.
was interesting.
So and just the fact that I don't know if it's just like me just being like having that power of making it go away by telling it to go away, or maybe I'm like sometimes I like to think, oh, maybe it was like a friendly spirit and they felt bad because I was traumatized, and maybe they didn't know, and maybe me like crying and begging it to go away,
Yeah.
maybe, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it kind of sounds silly, but
No, no,
I
not
like.
not at all. Because I mean, if because there are different types of hauntings. There are hauntings where something is physically there, trying
Mhm,
to scare you
mhm,
or trying to draw energy
right.
from you. But then there's
Mhm,
also the tapes that play and ghosts or entities are just going about their day of a
mhm,
past life, and and you can't do anything about that. They're just doing their normal natural progression, and it's just something that usually plays, back and forth. And
right.
that's usually when something's on limestone or a person's lived in a particular spot for a long, stint of time. So those type of things. And I was going to ask, because this is just a standard bedroom, so it wasn't like the master or any big bedroom,
Mhm,
to
right.
where it was, because I was wondering, like, could have been a older person passed away there, um,
It is possible. I mean, maybe the family had like an older person living with them and they
yeah.
passed away, and then maybe after that they moved on, they decided to move or something like that.
Mhm.
I mean, it's certainly possible, but just so I don't terrify myself, I try to think that, oh, okay, maybe it wasn't like an evil presence,
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so, um,
And being
yes.
that it was just walking opposed to actually physically I mean, you weren't finding yourself at the time depressed and all that other than what was going on, and you were concerned and, were emotional over that, obviously, but it wasn't to where it was
Mhm.
added, depression that you were, like, in this space and it was just oppressive to be in, right?
Right. No, and maybe it was just also being younger too and
Yeah.
more resilient. Like right, like if that were to happen now, I don't know that I could handle those things now. But yeah, no, it was I was fine during the day, and then the anxiety would set in at nighttime.
Exactly. 'Cause you're like,
So
"What's going to happen?" like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this thing is moving, but what's next?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right. Right.
yeah, that is interesting. That's a very interesting story, and I do hear that a lot. About you know, again, I'm going to say entity or spirit that moves
Mm-hmm.
about, but again, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't. It just goes about its day and goes about its
Mm-hmm.
time. And again, it must have been something that was there because again, when you really took charge of your space, it kind of it's like okay, it's time for me to
Right.
leave, or
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make that sound anymore. I'm not gonna
Right. I mean,
charge up this energy to do that. So
yeah. It was almost like an instant, like pressure like left,
oh
like I
wow,
felt like release
yeah,
right after that. So I don't know. I definitely feel like it was something because I just remember both of those situations in that house pretty vividly. So
hmm,
uh, it definitely was not my imagination or anything like that. So I'm pretty confident that it was something there.
wow,
So
yeah, that's amazing.
um yeah.
But yeah, and what's your cultural background?
So I am Japanese and Korean, but grew up very Americanized. My dad was in the military.
Hmm.
I was born in Spain and
Oh, okay.
lived abroad and came to California when I was about 9 years old.
Oh,
So
okay.
I've been here since I was 9.
Got it. Got it. Okay, but yeah, but even with that background, a lot of you know, elders or older people, whether they're Japanese or any type of Asian descent, they're like, no, let's not talk about, it's like kind of like the black culture. You don't want to really talk about it. You want to
Mhm.
kind of brush it off and say, so it's really good that your dad at least, checked on it and was like, heard you out without, nope, don't even, think about it or don't even say anything. Um,
Right.
so
Yeah.
that's really good. So,
Yeah.
was there another story or
Yeah, so the third one, it was something just very brief. So I think I was about 19 and I was living with a boyfriend in there were like some really old rundown apartments
okay.
and um so, we lived in how was it? Yeah, it was a one-bedroom apartment. And then, like strange, like little things would happen. Like, in the morning, there's one of those. I don't know if you've like seen those wooden figure dolls. I think people use them. They're like on a stand, and I think they're like for drawing purposes or
Yeah,
something to do.
yeah, it's for like posing.
Yeah,
Cuz I
yeah,
have
it
one.
was one
Yeah.
of those.
Mhm.
And that same doll, every single morning when we woke up, would just be laying on the floor.
Mm.
And so I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's the air conditioning knocking it over. Although it never happened during the day, it was always overnight. And
Yeah.
then there were other things next to it, and they were never on the floor. So that made me kind of think it was a little strange. Um, and then right outside our bedroom, we had like bathroom sink and vanity. And then to the left of that was the door to the bathroom where the toilet and shower were. So the vanity outside our room had cabinet doors underneath.
Mhm.
So one night, we were laying in bed. It was like late at night and it was super quiet. And then all of a sudden, one of those cabinet doors slammed shut, like really hard, just like a violent like slamming. And those cabinets were never ever left open. I
Yeah.
know I had a very OCD boyfriend at the time, and there's no way he would have gone to bed leaving one of those cabinet doors open. So
Yeah.
I know that it was closed. So anyhow, we were both stunned and scared. And I told him, I said, you need to go out there and check to see if someone is in the apartment. And he said, I'm not going out there. And that should have been like a warning sign right then and there. Okay, you're not gonna go like check that out. But so
Yeah.
yeah, neither one of us got up to go. Like we like huddled under the blankets, and we actually never heard another sound. So
Oh,
I know there wasn't anyone in our apartment.
yeah.
Uh,
The doors were
but
locked, windows were closed.
yes, exactly. And so that I'm pretty confident was some type of spirit, because just the amount of force that went into that cabinet door slamming was
Hmm.
like ridiculous. It was like shocking when we heard it. But that was like pretty much the only thing I remember in that apartment. We weren't there for very long, you know, but yeah, those are pretty much my only three experiences. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes in my current house, you know, my TV will go on in the middle of the night, and
That's
I
something. That's see, people always say that. It's like that look that is something that is still very much something
yeah,
because
and at
yeah.
first I tried to tell myself, oh, the dog must have bumped into the remote control.
Yeah,
Then it happened, and we're like, wait, the dog is nowhere near the remote control. And
exactly.
like, I don't know, is it like a technical glitch or something like that?
No, it's
But
energy. So that's the thing. Energy to the remote, then the remote, something is touching it cuz that's why you see a lot of the paranormal groups that do ghost hunting, they use different devices to where if there's static electricity or electricity in general, it sets off
Mhm.
different alarms. And so entities will generate a certain amount of electricity or energy, and that's when you get that feeling sensation, or even sometimes the hairs on your neck stand
Mhm.
up, opposed to when you're scared or something's frightening you, all your hairs stand up. It's not in a
Right,
particular area. But if you
right.
ever take something out of the dryer and it's has that static electric, it's only
Mhm.
affecting that certain area. It's that
Mhm.
same type of process.
Yep.
So yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, I don't know, there could be you know, a like a say a relative or someone who's special to you watching over you type deal, you know. Um
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think that, but then I'm like, I don't know if I want them watching over me. Like they're invading my privacy. They need to just stop and go
yeah.
away. Yeah, so I don't know, but yeah, I will say that's probably the only things that have happened to me recently.
Yeah, no, those are great stories, and again, these type of scenarios and stories happen to a lot of people, and it's just
Mhm.
about people coming out and actually talking about them, and then they know, like, okay, that is something. It's not something to brush off, and some people will take the time to say thank you or are you there, and
Mhm.
will speak to that particular scenario or situation, or some was
Mhm.
just like, hey, I don't even want to think about it, I don't I don't want it to be around, or leave,
Yeah.
if that's what you want, and hopefully that is a situation that would the person or entity would listen, like the other did. Have
Mhm.
you ever like staged your homes or anything like that, or to clear
I
it?
have actually, yeah, no, I haven't done it for a while. I've never saged any other place that I've lived in, but I have saged this house a few times actually.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, maybe I need to do that again and then see if the TV still turns on.
Does it happen quite frequently, or is this something that just
I'd
every
say
now and
like
then?
once every 2, 3 weeks the TV will go
Oh
on.
wow. Okay. And that's only in
Hmm.
the bedroom, or is it in the family room, or anywhere remote is,
Um,
or
just let me think. It's actually two different rooms,
okay.
but one main room it will happen in most
Hmm.
of the time.
Interesting. Interesting.
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
again, yeah, those are really great stories.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Then I'm glad that you found them interesting. Yeah, no, it's definitely nice to share that with someone who actually believes in that, because most of the people that I tell this to, they're very skeptical. It's always like, oh, it must have been this or it must have been that. And I'm like, no, I know what it was, and I, know what I believe. Uh, so it's nice to commiserate and, share with like-minded people.
As we reach the end of this riveting segment on Strange Darkness Radio, we want to express our appreciation to the brave callers who shared their chilling and paranormal accounts. Your narratives remind us that the mysteries of the supernatural world are as captivating as they are unsettling. Until next time, remember to keep your senses sharp and your curiosity alive. Stay strange, and thank you for tuning in to explore the shadows with us.